Chapter 992. Is he advancing? With the channeling of spiritual power, the painful expression on Zhuge Xiaoyan's face slowly disappeared, turning into tranquility and peace. Hushi's eyes flickered slightly, and her fingers moved lightly, and the purple vines that had covered Zhuge Xiaotian from the sky returned to Hushi's body in an instant. In the next instant, the warm but dazzling sunlight shined on Zhuge Xiaoyan's face. Ah! Zhuge Feng exclaimed in shock. Mr. Shi, why are you removing the shade? What if Xiaoyan's disease relapses? Hushi's voice calmly and firmly interrupted him. City Lord Zhuge, don't you understand? Because of the cloud marrow pill, the current sunshine is not only a harm to the young city lord, but it is the best medicine for him to heal. What? Zhuge Feng was taken aback for a moment, then he looked at Zhuge Xiaotian with his eyes widened. Zhuge Xiaotian not only didn't feel painful being shined by the sun, but a faint light radiated from him immediately. That was the light was due to the overflow of spiritual power. That was a miraculous scene when one's dantian and meridians expanded. Dr. Chun, with the highest level of medical skills, watched for a while, and he suddenly exclaimed in disbelief, Is he advancing? Not only did the old disease not recur due to sunlight, but the wounds and scars on the face healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. More surprisingly, the more the sun, the faster his spiritual power was channeling and the more mellow his spiritual power was. Black spots even secreted on his skin. This was not only curing and advancing, but also a process of cleaning impurities in the meridians and eliminating all toxins in the martial artist. Cloud marrow pill. Cloud marrow pill. Is it really just a cure for the vampire disease? Is it really just a pill formula created by a 17-year-old boy? When the eyes of these doctors once again fell on the dozens of medicinal pills remaining in the pill cauldron, there was already a fanatical light in their eyes. It can help martial artists to advance and remove impurities and toxins in the meridians. Although it still can't cleanse the muscles and replace the marrow, such a medicinal pill is already rare in the world. If I can get one, wouldn't I be able to advance my cultivation and medical skills? The doctors on the city wall were shocked and enthusiastic, and the people under the city wall were so shocked by the continuous scene that they couldn't breathe. Many martial artists who were stuck in the bottleneck period almost lost their minds and flew up the city wall to get the medicinal pills. Some people in Yangon City finally remembered the name of this young miracle healer, Shiyu. Shiyu, could it be? Is he the miracle healer rumored in Yinjing City? Shiyu, the owner of Shengda Hall? Oh my God! If it were him, it would be no surprise that such superb medicinal pills can be made. The young city lord is so severe, but he can even advance after taking cloud marrow pill. If I can also get a cloud marrow pill, will I be able to break through the middle stage of the meridian stage? 4th grade cloud marrow pill. After today, this medicinal pill will probably be known throughout the entire Miluo continent. At this time, Zhuge Xiaotian finally finished meditating and slowly opened his eyes. Xiaotian, how do you feel? Zhuge Xiaotian also looked a little dazed. He stood up and touched the sweat bead on his face, and a stench came to his nose. Chapter 993. Full of desire, he quickly condensed water's spiritual power to wash his body. Then he said hoarsely, Father, I seem to have broken through to the meridian stage, perfect stage. Zhuge Feng was overjoyed as he grabbed his son's hand and inspected with spiritual power. The spiritual power in Zhuge Xiaotian's dantian was really full. It contained more spiritual power than it should be. He had really reached the meridian stage, perfect stage, and he would soon enter the pseudo-core stage of the gold core stage. His son was able to enter the gold core stage at the age of less than 30. Thinking of this, Zhuge Feng's hand trembled. However, after all, he was most concerned about his son's condition. Xiaotian, is your illness really cured? Will it relapse in 2 days? As he said, he looked at Hushi nervously with a face full of enthusiasm. Mr. Shi, can you help Xiaotian diagnose again? Hushi smiled slightly and took a step forward to catch Zhuge Xiaotian's wrist pulse. After diagnosing for a while, she released a little blood with a knife and inspected the blood condition with spiritual power before nodding and saying, City Lord Zhuge, please rest assured, The young city lord's illness has been completely cured. Really? Really? Zhuge Feng's voice was hoarse and incoherent due to excitement. It won't relapse? Can you check it again? Is there anything we need to pay attention to? Does he need to expose to the sun less in the future? Father, don't ask anymore. Zhuge Xiaotian stretched out his hand and interrupted Zhuge Feng. Afterward, he stretched out his hand to touch the sunlight and slowly said, Father, I know my body better than anyone else. I'm sure I have healed. Moreover, the sunlight not only does not make me scared and uncomfortable, on the contrary, it is giving me continuous strength. Hushi nodded and said, in addition to eradicating the source of disease in the young city lord, the cloud marrow pill has another function, which is to absorb the fire energy from the sun for one's own use. It can also broaden the meridians and remove the impurities in the body. It is especially effective for martial artists who have the spiritual root of thunder, fire, and gold. Of course, this effect can only be maintained until the medicinal effort of the cloud marrow pill completely disappears, which is only about 24 hours. There was another commotion after hearing Hushi's words. Many people couldn't help but greedily move closer to the open gray cauldron. Even the guards on the wall are no exception. They looked at the dozens of cloud marrow pills with eyes full of desire. Those were the medicinal pills that could let martial artists absorb the fire essence of the sun. Although the effect only lasted for 24 hours, it was already of great benefit to the martial artists. Not to mention, it could also broaden the meridians and remove impurities. Zhuge Xiaotian in front was the best proof of the effect of this kind of medicinal pill. How could they not covet and desire? Among all the people under the wall, the only ones with ugly faces were probably Lu Zhishi, Ren Shuling, and Li Jianyu. Lu Zhishi looked at the confident and ecstatic expression on Zhuge Xiaotian's face and his normal body under the sun. Then her entire heart sank bit by bit. There was never a moment when she wanted to beat a person so much, but she was powerless. She was even trampled into the mud by the other party, but she was unable to resist. But at this time, Zhuge and his son even gave her a fatal blow. Although everyone was coveting the cloud marrow pill, Zhuge Feng only cared about the safety of his son. The failure of Fairy Zhishi's treatment plan just now had eliminated all the trust in his mind. He still felt fearful seeing the sun shine on his son. Chapter 994, Medical Skills Competition Result. He said nervously, Xiaotian, why don't you go back to the basement now and wait for tomorrow to see if the disease will relapse? What if Miracle Healer Shi's treatment is the same as Fairy Zhishi? What if there are sequelae? Who knew Zhuge Xiaotian shook his head firmly, Father, that's not the same. After Fairy Zhishi treated me, although I can get some sun, the sun does not make me feel close. Even after exposing to the sun for a long time, I felt irritable in my heart. However, Miracle Healer Shi's treatment is different. After he asked me to take the cloud marrow pill, I only felt that sunlight was so comfortable for me. Even the desire for raw meat and blood, which was hidden in my body since childhood, disappeared completely. Father, I know that this time my body is really healed. Zhuge Xiaotian's words were sincere and exciting, but it was like slapping Lu Zhishi's face. What does he mean Miracle Healer Shi's treatment is different? What does he mean his body is really healed this time? Is Zhuge Xiaotian telling all the people in Yang'an City that I, Lu Zhishi, lose to Shiyu? Zhuge Feng had always known that Zhuge Xiaotian had liked raw meat more than cooked food since he was a child, and he occasionally liked to eat food cooked with blood from fierce beasts. Now when he heard this, he knew that his son was really healed this time. Under excitement, he couldn't help turning around and bowing deeply toward Hushi. Miracle Healer Shi, your medical skills have really reached the point of being miraculous. Our Zhuge family is really grateful for your life-saving grace of my son. Before Hushi had spoken yet, Baihu had walked over with his hands folding on his chest. City Lord Zhuge, this nonsense is meaningless. If you affirm my young master's medical skills and confirm that the young city lord has healed, then just declare the results of the competition between my young master and Fairy Zhishi. Zhuge Feng was startled, and he looked at Lu Zhishi with embarrassed eyes. In fact, he really wanted to directly announce the result of the medical skills competition because he was completely convinced with Shiyu's medical skills. However, The treatment results of Lu Jishi were only announced 3 days later. If he immediately announced Shi Yu's treatment results, wouldn't it be a disgrace to Fairy Jishi? Sure enough, Ren Shuling suddenly jumped out angrily when she heard the words, "Why my senior sister needs to be observed for 3 days when treating a disease, but this kid doesn't need it? Zhuge City Lord, are you looking down on my senior sister?" Baihu sneered, "Someone isn't capable. Blood changing also needed to take 3 days. Don't think that the other is the same as her." Hee, let's not take about this. Just based on the results alone, didn't Fairy Jishi lose because she is inferior to my young master in terms of medical skills? How do you want to refute this fact? Baihu only used one sentence to shut Ren Shuiling's mouth, making her face flush. Lu Jishi bit her lower lip with a look of embarrassment and humiliation, but in the end, she lowered her eyes and silently concealed the expression in her eyes. The people of Yangon City who were onlookers were finally awake at this time. Aya, the bet about the medical skills competition in the Changelfang. That's a bet that almost everyone in Yangon City took part in. Many people even bet almost all their belongings on Fairy Jishi. But the result of the current competition was that Fairy Jishi actually lost. Suddenly, there was a deathly silence under the noisy city wall. Chapter 995. The show is about to begin. Li Jinyu clutched his painful chest, took a step forward, stared fiercely at City Lord Zhuge with cold sweat on his forehead, and said coldly, "City Lord Zhuge, you better think about what you should do and what not to do. Don't forget about Jishi's identity, Shuiling's identity, and what is my identity is. Even if you are the Lord of Yangon City, can you afford to offend all of us, the Doctors Association and Yunlan sect? What's more, you have also seen that the people of Yangon City also hope that Jishi will win, don't they?" Fine sweat exuded on Zhuge Feng's forehead. His eyes were filled with struggle. Zhuge Xiaotian was just standing next to Zhuge Feng. After hearing Li Jinyu threatening his father like this, he felt his anger surged up and he almost rushed out, but Zhuge Feng held him back tightly. Zhuge Feng used to stay in the external hall of the Doctors Association, so he knew better than anyone how powerful the Doctors Association was. Offending them would never end well. What's more, Li Jinyu and Yunlan sect couldn't be offended easily as well. For a while, Zhuge Feng was in a dilemma. Baihu looked at their secret interactions, and he suddenly laughed and raised the volume. When I saw elderly, I suddenly remembered that there is something. I really want to let Lord Zhuge and all the people of Yangon City below take a look. It's a very interesting video. After speaking, Baihu suddenly took out a piece of silver talisman paper and injected spiritual power into it. The talisman paper burned. The clear image was also projected on the city wall, so that everyone could see clearly. Although the recording talisman was rare, everyone on Miluo continent still knew it. However, the recording talisman that Baihu took out shocked everyone. Generally, the images recorded by the recording talisman were silent. However, when the recording talisman in Baihu's hand burned, in addition to the clear image, it even played Elder Li's voice. That's right, when the recording talisman was played, it was Li Jinyu's voice. The video also showed two people who were very familiar to Yangon City people, Li Jinyu and Master Yuehua. Master Yuehua, have you ever heard that rumors are like a flame blown by the wind? Li Jinyu trembled abruptly when he heard this sentence of his own voice. He said in disbelief, how do you have such a thing? A leisurely smile appeared on Baihu's face. He raised one finger to his lips and whispered, "Shh, elderly, be quiet. Don't disturb everyone in Yangon City watching this good show. After all, elderly, you know better than anyone else that the show is about to begin." Li Jinyu was stunned on the spot. Staring at the image broadcast, he only felt cold and sweaty in his palms. And as the video played, upon hearing the dialogue between Master Yuehua and Li Jinyu, the faces of everyone under the city wall were filled with indignation. It turned out that, without them knowing, Master Yuehua was threatened and humiliated by Li Jinyu. Even if this was not enough, when Master Yuehua was about to successfully refine the pills just now, it was also Li Jinyu who backstabbed Master Yuehua. Yes, at this moment, everyone believed that Li Jinyu must have backstabbed Master Yuehua just now. Chapter 996. Shi 1. Among all the people present, the most angry, most regretful and painful was none other than Zhuge Feng. Especially when he finally heard that Li Jinyu threatened Master Yuehua with him, and his son's future and Master Yuehua had to compromise regretfully, he covered his face to hide his hot tears. As Master Yuehua's best friend, he knew that his friend had been anxious and desperate to lose the ability of pill refining, but he couldn't do anything for him. After Zhuge Xiaotian fell ill, it was this friend who studied ancient books for him day and night to look for treatment methods and identified the doctors who came to apply. It was this friend who was obviously upright, but he was humiliated, condemned, and even threatened again and again for him. And what did Zhuge Feng do for this close friend? When he was questioned by Yangon City's doctors, when Li Jinyu embarrassed him, he, the city lord of Yangon City, did nothing for him. Even facing Shiyu, Master Yuehua's benefactor, he himself had many doubts, and he didn't even have the courage to declare his victory. The recording talisman had finished playing, and Zhuge Feng only felt a surge of blood in his chest. He took a step forward and said loudly, "I, Zhuge Feng, as the lord of Yangon City, announced that in the medical skill competition between Fairy Jishi and Shiyu won. Regardless of whether Xiaoyan's illness will relapse in the future, I'm willing to take responsibility for the results I announce at this moment, and I will never renege." Zhuge Xiaotian did not hesitate and took a big step forward to say with a hoarse voice, "I can also guarantee that Miracle Healer Shi's treatment plan is definitely more correct than Fairy Jishi. My body has been healed. If I still have any illness after that, it has absolutely nothing to do with Miracle Healer Shi." When Zhuge Feng and his son said these words, they not only announced the victory of Shiyu, but they also cut off all the shady methods of Li Jinyu or Renshuling afterward. In other words, this medical skill competition, which was supposed to have a disparity in strength, ended up in a way that was completely beyond everyone's expectations. A young man from the small country, Jinling Kingdom, Shiyu, who had no doctor's rank, actually defeated Fairy Jishi of the 6th rank doctor. There was no chance for Fairy Jishi to come back at all. Lu Jishi's face turned pale. Listening to the doctors, who had flattered her, were now willing to surround Shiyu and say congratulations to her. Looking at Nangong Yu's cold starry eyes full of dotting and affection when looking at Shiyu, Lu Jishi felt pressure in her chest, making her almost want to crush her teeth. The person who was even more resentful than Lu Jishi was Li Jinyu. He didn't expect that the words he threatened Master Yuehua would be recorded with the recording talisman. Even more, he did not expect that it was his own mistake that caused Jishi to completely lose the medical skills competition and suffered such humiliation from Zhuge Feng and his son. His eyes flashed with a sinister ray, and he stared at Zhuge Feng and his son like a poison-quenched ice blade. These two ignorant wastes dare to let Jishi fall into such an embarrassing situation. I will never let them go. Thinking like this, Li Jinyu pressed his hands firmly on the fence of the city wall, almost crushing the fence made of green stone. Chapter 997. The Unusual Li Jinyu. But suddenly, Li Jinyu felt a dullness in his chest, making him almost breathless. Immediately afterward, even his head became chaotic as if it was shrouded in mist. He didn't know where he was and what he did. In the depths of his heart, a violent anger surged up, burning his sanity and making him hysterical. Renshuling, who was standing next to him, thought his illness had relapsed when she saw him trembling slightly. She supported him and asked, "Cousin, are you okay? Go lost? Don't touch me." Before Renshuling's words were finished, Li Jinyu suddenly let out an angry growl, throwing away Renshuling with a face of disgust. Renshuling was dumbfounded after being thrown away by Li Jinyu. Li Jinyu laughed and said, "Renshuling, you ugly and stupid woman are actually my cousin. I feel ashamed to even think of it. If you weren't the junior of Jishi, you think I will care for you?" Li Jinyu's voice was full of arrogance. Everyone could hear his words clearly. Renshuling only felt an impact in her head. She was stupefied immediately. The man in front of her was obviously her who pampered and cared for her, but he had become so strange that she couldn't recognize him at all. But Li Jinyu seemed unaware. He still continued to say, "Shiyu, you lowly bastard, you dare to provoke Jishi. You are simply tiring of living. Do you know who Jishi is? She is my goddess, the woman whom I dare not to blaspheme even in my dream. And you dare to embarrass her. It's all to blame Yuehua, the old fool Yuehua. If it weren't for him not believing in Jishi's medical skills and brought you bitch into the city lord's mansion, Jishi wouldn't have to suffer such humiliation. Hee. So, I spread rumors in Yangon City. I not only spread news about you, but I also let people leak the facts that Yuehua can't pill refining. Ha ha ha, how stupid the people in Yangon City are. As soon as the news spread, they believed them all. They even cursed that old fool Yuehua. I know how much Yuehua cares about Yangon City. Letting him hear the people in Yangon City scold him is the best punishment for him. Ha ha ha, and I can even use Zhuge Feng to threaten him and let him listen to me to frame Shiyu. This is simply 3 birds with 1 stone. As long as it succeeds, Shiyu will be ruined. He will not be able to stand in the way of Jishi. But, Li Jinyu was saying excitedly, but at this point, his face was distorted. But why? The development of things was not as I expected. Shiyu actually succeeded in pill refining, and Zhuge Xiaotian is also cured. Why? Why can someone whom Jishi can't cure, but Shiyu, a nobody, can cure? God is unfair. And he looked fiercely at Zhuge Feng and Zhuge Xiaotian and his son, screaming sternly. Zhuge Feng, Zhuge Xiaotian, you dare to announce that Jishi lost to Shiyu in public. Do you think Yunlan sect and the Doctors Association will let you go? Stop dreaming. You all shall wait. Even if Zhuge Xiaotian's illness is cured, you will never end up well. Just wait for the revenge of me and Jishi. Chapter 998. Gone insane. There was an uproar in the audience. They were shock and anger one after another. If Li Jinyu's words just now only made everyone shocked, puzzled, and questioned, then his last words made everyone present infuriated. This was no longer a question of winning or losing a bet. It was not the anger that could be quelled by how many crystal stones they lost or win. Although Zhuge Feng's cultivation was not high, he was a very good city lord for the people of Yangon City. But now, their city lord was being threatened publicly. He was just telling the truth, but he and his family's safety couldn't be guaranteed? How can Li Jinyu say that? How can he be so arrogant? Is it just because of the power of the Yunlan sect and the Doctors Association? Lu Jishi's face at this time could no longer be described as ugly, but his face was extremely gloomy. Her voice was like an ice bead, and she said coldly, Li Jinyu, stop saying. Did someone do something to you that you don't even have a sane mind now? How am I not having a sane mind? Li Jinyu suddenly took a step forward and grabbed Lu Jishi's hand with a frantic expression. Jishi, I told you before, I'm willing to do anything for you. Even if you let me go murder someone, I will not hesitate. I'm willing to sweep all the obstacles before you. Shut up. Lu Jishi trembled with anger, and a burst of smoke burst out of his hand. The white smoke floated to Li Jinyu's cheek, and he was in a daze as if he was about to fall. However, a powerful burning force surged up in his chest, making him awake again. This time, his gaze was even more scorching, and his expression even more mad. He stretched out his hand to hug Lu Jishi and said hoarsely, Jishi, I really like you so much. You have always been the goddess in my heart. I want to hug you like this even in my dream and kiss you. With that, he was about to kiss Lu Jishi's fragrant lips. Lu Jishi only felt a burst of nausea rushing to her heart. She couldn't bear it anymore. A surging spiritual power was released as she pushed. Li Jinyu seemed to have completely lost the power of resistance. He staggered a few steps being pushed by Lu Jishi, then he fell from the city wall. Bang! With a loud noise, Li Jinyu fell under the wall with an unsightly pose, let out a moan and fainted. Although the city walls of the Yangon City's city lord's mansion were not too high, the martial artists fell down without channeling spiritual power would break a few bones. The citizens below were all taken aback by the incident. When they saw Li Jinyu's embarrassed and unsightly posture, they all burst into laughter. On the city wall, Lu Jishi and Ren Shuling finally couldn't stay any longer. They turned around and left with cold faces. No one ever looked at Li Jinyu, who had passed out in pain. Instead, the people of Yangon City underneath pointed at him and laughed at his vicious actions and his miserable end. Little Egg, Little Golden Dragon, and Xiaotu, who stood not far behind Hashi, turned their admiring eyes to Xiao Li. Little Egg held up his small paw and exclaimed, "Sister Xiao Li, you are so amazing. You're even better than Mom. You can make the villains surnamedly speak the truth without using medicine." Chapter 999. You're getting stronger, yeah. Xiaotu was full of enthusiasm. "Xiao Li, can you teach me too? If I can master it, I can ask my junior apprentice to obediently tell the location of his treasure." Xiao Li's snowy smiley face was slightly red, and her face was full of shy smiles, because my talent skills are relatively special. So after cultivation to the third level, I can release a unique smell that can confuse people's minds and enlarge the emotions in people's hearts 10 times, or even 100 times. Xiao Li was a 9-tailed silver fox. All the spiritual pets around Hashi know about it, but Xiaotu didn't. Coupled with the special and rare nature of the 9-tailed silver fox, she naturally wouldn't reveal her identity. But, it's not all my credit. Xiao Li took a peek at Nangongyu, who was standing next to Hashi, before whispering, "Because the beautiful brother, no, it's Master. Master hurt him first so that my charm can work. Otherwise, with his cultivation, it isn't easy to confuse his mind." "That's already great," Little Golden Dragon admired. Then he revealed a sinisterine smile. "Hee, they really wanted to retaliate against Zhuge Feng and Zhuge Xiaotian afterward. Although I'm not interested in Zhuge Feng's life or death, it's not so good if it involves Master Yuehua." Now Li Jinyu spoke out their secret conspiracy in front of everyone in Yangon City. With the virtue of fishing for fame of Fairy Jishi, she will not hesitate to save the lives of Zhuge's father and son. Now Li Jinyu was ashamed publicly, and he even disgusted Fairy Jishi, and there is no sequelae. Ha. "Xiao Li, you are really amazing." Xiao Li was delighted. She glanced at Hashi with joy eyebrows. Then she quietly ran to Hashi's side and grabbed her clothes. Her eyes were full of happiness. "It's great that I can also contribute to Miss." Hashi felt the little girl approaching, and she lowered her head and stroked her hair softly. She said softly, "Xiao Li, you did a good job just now. You're getting stronger." Xiao Li's eyes lit up, and the already bright and beautiful face seemed to be radiant because of Hashi's praise. She was obviously just at a young age, but her eyes already had a fascinating charm. That was the charm that only the 9-tailed silver fox could have. Hashi moved slightly in his heart and put the little girl in his arms, and said in his heart that she must protect Xiao Li and never let her suffer any more harm. Xiao Li was hugged into Hashi's warm embrace. Her body stiffened slightly, but she relaxed immediately, fully enjoying the moment of happiness. It's really great to be Miss Side all the time. The only depressed person was Nangongyu. Why do these little things like to stick around Shears so much, occupying her attention? Really annoying. At this time, the medical skills competition between Lu Jishi and Shi Yu was finally over. The people of Yangon City below were also preparing to leave. Suddenly, a doctor on the wall couldn't help but speak. "Mr. Shi, are you selling this cloud marrow pill? What is the price?" Just this sentence stopped the martial artists of Yangon City who had planned to leave. Chapter 1000. Not comparable to him, yeah. There is also the inestimable value cloud marrow pills that can help people to advance. There are a total of 77 cloud marrow pills. Hashi smiled slightly and said without hesitation, "The person who really refines these cloud marrow pills is Master Yuehua. So this furnace of pills belongs to him. If you want to buy it, just ask him." Master Yuehua's eyes widened suddenly. "What? They belong to me? How can this be? Absolutely no. Absolutely no way." Hashi simply ignored Master Yuehua's panic, and she said lightly, "Oh, right. Remember to pay for the raw materials. With the 10 best quality flame spirit pills from last time, a total of 3 million crystals. Remember to pay it back early. Otherwise, I will count interest." 3 million crystals. It is only 3 million crystals. It is not even the value of a cloud marrow pill. Shiyu's words seemed indifferent and ruthless, but in fact, she gave him all the cloud marrow pills. Master Yuehua only felt hot and humid in his eyes. His lips opened and closed countless times, trying to speak, but he couldn't say a word. The onlookers widened their eyes when hearing Hashi's words. Then, everyone looked at Master Yuehua with gazes full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. Just because Master Yuehua helped Shiyu a few times, he actually gave Master Yuehua a total of 77 cloud marrow pills. If I knew early, I would also speak up for Shiyu, and maybe I could still get a few pills. There were a few doctors, who were really unwilling, even couldn't help protesting to Hashi. Mr. Shi, even if Master Yuehua recovers the ability to refine pill, he is only a 4th-rank doctor. We are 6th-rank doctors. Even our cultivation is higher than him. Instead of giving the cloud marrow pills to Master Yuehua, you might as well give us a few so that these cloud marrow pills won't be waste. Hashi smiled slightly and looked at him with a cold gaze. Do you really think you are qualified to compare with Master Yuehua? What do you mean by this? I'm a 6th-rank doctor. Yuehua is just, in my eyes, doctor rank is nothing. Hashi interrupted him coldly, and Master Yuehua has something you all don't have. It's something you can never compare to him. After speaking, she didn't stay any longer. She took Nangong Yu's hand and quickly walked down the city wall. Before leaving, she only left a sentence to Zhuge Feng. City Lord Zhuge, don't forget to give me the agreed reward. We came for the Divine Soul Jade. I don't take anything else, but I must get the Divine Soul Jade. Of course, the bets in Changle Gambling House must not be forgotten. As soon as Hashi left, the people around her naturally followed her and left quickly. For a while, Zhuge Feng and his son and the group of doctors who looked at each other with ugly faces were left on the wall. The 6th-rank doctors who had just been reprimanded by Hashi couldn't help saying ruthlessly, "That damn kid. How can he say that to me? How can he say that I will never be better than Yuehua? Doctor Hu, do you know why Yuehua's spiritual power collapsed and lost the ability to refine pill?" Zhuge Feng suddenly took a step forward and coldly interrupted him. However, without waiting for Doctor Hu's answer, Zhuge Feng looked at the densely packed citizen under the city wall with sharp and deep gazes. Do you know why Master Yuehua would lose all future and hope at his glorious period of his lifetime? Chapter 1001. A blessing in disguise. There was silence under the city wall, and everyone was holding their breath for Zhuge Feng's answer. It is because of the plague, Zhuge Feng said firmly. 10 years ago, everyone in the Yangon city was on the verge of life and death, and the plague was raging. Yuehua regarded Yangon city as his home and all of you as his relatives, so even if he had to sacrifice everything, he wanted to save all of you. He tried to get himself infected with the plague, tried various medicines to restrain the spread of the plague, and in the end, he finally found medicinal pills to treat the plague. However, in his own attempts, his dantian suffered damage. He could no longer condense the spiritual fire, and he could no longer refine pill. Under the city wall, everyone in Yangon City looked disbelief as if they were struck by lightning. Zhuge Feng continued. He sacrificed his own future and his talent as a doctor for all of you. But how did you treat him? You spread the rumors released by Li Jinyu to hurt him and slander him? You ask your own conscience. Can you face yourself and your relatives who survived 10 years ago? Someone in the crowd was sobbing low, and everyone's eyes were filled with regret and self-blame. Master Yuehua suddenly took a step forward, pressed Zhuge Feng's shoulder, and said with a hoarse voice, "Brother Zhuge, don't say any more. I don't feel pain. You see, didn't I get a blessing in disguise? If Shiyu didn't see through my dantian was hurt in a glance, I wouldn't believe in him. If I didn't believe in him, Xiaoyan's disease wouldn't be treated, and I wouldn't get so many cloud marrow pill. I don't feel regret at all. Instead, I feel very good, very content." He looked at the people under the city wall and said loudly, "Yangon City is my home, and everything I do is my willingness, and I never regret it. If you really want to thank me, Yuehua, then please pass on all the thanks to me to Shiyu. It was Shiyu who made me reborn and qualified to be a doctor again. Shiyu's kindness to me, even if I spend my entire life, I can't repay it. Master Yuehua, my life was saved by you more than 10 years ago. Shiyu is your benefactor, and he is equivalent to our benefactor. I'm willing to repay Miracle Healer Shi on behalf of Master Yuehua. As long as Miracle Healer Shi has any order, I, Zhao Ting, will execute complaint. Me too. From then on, Miracle Healer Shi is our most distinguished guest in Yangon City. Yes, if anyone dares to slander Miracle Healer Shi again, I will never let him go. Hushi, who had just walked down the city wall, suddenly heard the earth-shaking shouts inside and outside the city wall. Although the shouts were not uniform at all, they were all mixed with her name, Miracle Healer Shi. She was taken aback for a moment, and she couldn't help but shook her head and chuckled. Nangong Yu on the side stretched out his hand to bring her into her arms, and he whispered in a slightly sour tone, "Little girl, I really want to hide you. Why, no matter where you go, you will be the focus of everyone's attention. They can't look away from you at all." Hushi grabbed his hand and smiled slyly. "What? Is Lord King of Hell jealous?" Nangong Yu stretched out his hand, scratched the tip of her nose and hugged her tighter into his arms. "Sheer, I'm just afraid. The better you are, the more afraid I will be that one day you will leave me." Chapter 1002. Brag. Hushi heard the anxiety and nervousness in his tone, and she couldn't help laughing. She poked his chest in annoyance. "Your Royal Highness King of Hell, the daughter of the president of the Doctors Association, likes you secretly. I'm not jealous yet. Why are you being jealous first? I'm excellent? Humph. You reached the soul-splitting stage at the age of 20. Can anyone on Miluo continent be able to beat you, King of Hell?" Nangong Yu was startled slightly, then he couldn't help letting out a deep laugh. He lowered his head and kissed her lightly before he smiled smugly. "Well, Sheer is right. I'm so excellent. Which woman in this world is worthy of me? Even Sheer barely meets my standard." "Barely?" Hushi kicked the person away and said with an annoyed smile, "Stop bragging." The clear and pleasant laughter spread throughout the entire Lanxiang courtyard. It was filled with endless happiness and sweetness. However, this kind of laughter was like poison in Lu Zhishi's ears in the east wing of the Lanxiang courtyard, making her clench her fists tightly. Although on the wall, Zhuge Feng had announced the outcome of the match between Hushi and Fairy Zhishi's medical skills. However, in the past 3 days, people kept coming to inquire about Zhuge Xiaotian's condition. After all, Fairy Zhishi almost cured Zhuge Xiaotian on that day, but in the end, the disease had relapsed not more than 3 days. Even Fairy Zhishi and Ren Shuling, although full of shame and resentment, still stayed in Lanxiang courtyard. Everyone wanted to see the real result of the medical skills competition. However, after 3 days, most of the people who participated in the gamble were disappointed. Because Zhuge Xiaotian's condition was getting better and better, people could even see him walking in the sun on the streets of Yangon City. His face was ruddy and full of energy. How could he look strangely ill? On this day, Hushi was enjoying a leisurely tea and playing chess with Nangong Yu in the west wing of Lanxiang courtyard. Qinglong, Bai Hu, Gu Lufeng and others also spent rare and leisurely days in the yard. Zhuge Feng had promised to bring Divine Soul Jade to Hushi tonight. So if nothing happened, after tomorrow, they planned to leave Yangon City when they received the gamble funds from Yangon City. Suddenly, a few people rushed in from the courtyard, led by Ren Shuling and Li Jinyu, who was still covered with gauze. Li Jinyu fell from the city wall that day. Although he would not die, he broke 3 ribs and fractured his left leg. It could be said that he suffered a lot. In particular, his reputation nowadays was even more ruined. People walking on the street were pointing to him, and his sect even used inscribed jade slip to announce that his position as the sword-holding elder was removed. Li Jinyu's life went smoothly whether in his family or in Yunlan's sect. Since when did he suffer such a huge setback? During these few days of recuperating, he really hated Shiyu into her bones. However, before he could think of a more sinister plot to frame Shiyu, his first gave him an astounding news. This was also the reason why he had to come to Lanxiang courtyard with his aching body. Hushi was really surprised when he saw Li Jinyu and Ren Shuling. They looked extremely anxious and angry, and there were still a lot of people behind them. Such a momentum, They seemed like they were here to collect debts. Chapter 1003, Drive Away? Before Hushi asked them why, Ren Shuling rushed up in a vigorous step and cursed, Shiyu, what have you done to us? Isn't it enough for us to be so miserable by you in the past few days? You? Why do you want to drag us down like this? Hushi raised her eyebrows and asked a little surprised, What did I do? You're still pretending to be innocent. Ren Shuling gritted his teeth. Today, all the medicine halls in the Tiangang Kingdom have posted announcements saying that the medicinal pills in the pharmacies will no longer be sold to my Ren family and my cousins. Li family, aren't all these done by you? Hushi's eyes flashed. Before she spoke, Gu Lufeng, who was drinking tea on the side, stood up slowly and said, I announced this. Shiyu really doesn't know. You can ask me if you have any questions. It's you. What are you? You dare to stop those pharmacies from selling medicines to our Ren family from now on? Do you think I would be afraid of such threats? Gu Liufeng's peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly. His eyes were full of coldness. From the moment you insulted Shiyu, you should have this kind of awareness. Or do you think that Shiyu can be bullied by you at will? When you were arrogant, we watched you arrogantly. Now that you fucked up, don't come to blame us. Your loser look is really too unsightly. Ren Shuling's face flushed red, looking at Gu Lufeng and Hushi fiercely as if she tore them in pieces the next moment. Lu Jishi, who still lived in the east wing of Lanxiang Courtyard, rushed over when she heard the news. Seeing Ren Shuling's infuriated look, she quickly asked, Shuling, what happened? As soon as Ren Shuling heard Lu Jishi's question, her eyes became red as she said in a sobbing tone, Senior sister, they are bullying us. Not only they disgraced you publicly, they even want to drive away my Ren family. Drive away? Seeing Lu Jishi coming out, Li Jinyu hurriedly stepped forward and said, Jishi, you don't know this yet. Early this morning, all the pharmacies in Yangon City published an announcement listing a series of names, including me, Shuling, Dr. Jiang, Pang San and others. Those pharmacies announced that they will blacklist us and our family from now on and no longer provide medicinal pills to us. Moreover, it is not just Yangon City, but all medicine halls in the Tiangang Kingdom today all posted this announcement. What? Lu Jishi exclaimed. How is this possible? Why would these pharmacies do this? It's because of these bitches. Ren Shuling screamed. They threatened the pharmacies to drive us away. Lu Jishi looked even more startled. Just them. How could they threaten all the pharmacies in the Tsangming Kingdom? Li Jinyu and Ren Shuling's expressions were distorted. Gu Lufeng took a step forward and smiled slowly. I can answer this question for them. Because 3 days ago, I just issued orders to all the branches and supply points of Shengda Hall in Miluo Continent. All pharmacies that want to cooperate with Shengda Hall must blacklist the families I listed and never provide medicinal pills to them. Otherwise, Shengda Hall will stop cooperating with these pharmacies. It's that simple. Lu Jishi's breathing stopped slightly and her eyes widened. Chapter 1004. Bully Lu Yin, who followed Lu Jishi, had already laughed and said, Are you kidding? Shengda Hall. What's Shengda Hall? A small pharmacy can actually threaten all pharmacies in the Tiangang Kingdom? Do you think your medicinal pills are the legendary best quality pill? Haha. You even learned from the Doctors Association to act arrogant. Just look at yourself whether you have this ability. Lu Yin's laughter was full of sarcasm and contempt. What she said was taken for granted. But everyone present, including Lu Jishi, didn't laugh at that, but everyone looked unsightly. You don't know if Shengda Hall is capable of this? Then you should know whether I have it, right? Just after Lu Yin's words, a clear male voice sounded at the entrance of Lanxiang Courtyard. Please rest assured, Shiyu and Brother Gu. Brother Gu's list has been notified to each branch of the Qingxia sect and passed to all pharmacies in the Tiangang Kingdom. I can guarantee that they will execute accordingly. While talking, a tall and slender man in a green robe appeared at the gate of the courtyard. As soon as Shin Qingchua saw this person, she immediately hurried forward happily. Uncle, why are you here? I miss you so much. The person who came was Shan San of the Qingxia sect and the uncle of Shan Qingchua. Shin-san knocked his niece on the forehead and smiled angrily. Miss me a lot? Why didn't I notice it? I thought you were so happy that you were reluctant to come back. Shin-Chinchua's face flushed. Then she shook Shin-sen's sleeve and said cutely, Uncle, why are you like this? We finally meet, but you still criticize me. But uncle, why are you here? Shin-sen patted Shin-Chinchua's hand before smiling and said, Chua-er, you shouldn't be the one who says that. Mr. Shi is our most important guest of the Qingxia sect. He came to Tsangming Kingdom, and you didn't even notify me to let our Qingxia sect welcome him? As a result, I got the news from Brother Gu. Shin-Chinchua's cheeks were even more flushed, and she did not speak for a long time. I, of course, wanted to inform grandfather and my parents in Qingxia sect that Shiyu had come to the Tsangming Kingdom. However, when they meet Shiyu, wouldn't they also meet Gu Lufeng? At the thought of such a scene, she couldn't help feeling anxious. She just wanted to postpone such a day a little bit later. However, before Shin-Chinchua could answer, Lu Jishi frowned and said, Elder Shin, what did you mean? Shin-san seemed to see Lu Jishi at this moment, and he couldn't help being startled. It turned out to be Fairy Jishi. Nice to meet you. Lu Jishi couldn't help feeling aggrieved when she was being ignored by Shin-san just now. When is my sense of existence so low? Or is this Shan-san deliberately pretending to disgrace me? At this time, seeing Shan-san, the people who had come in with Ren Shuling and Li Jinyu couldn't help but surround him, shouting outrageously, Elder Shin, as the leader of the Qingxia sect of the Tsangming Kingdom, how can you bully us like this? Yeah, our Peng family and Qingxia sect have no grievances and no grudges. Why do you forbid us to buy medicine in the pharmacies? Elder Shen, when did Qingxia sect start to listen to a little Shengda Hall? Is Shengda Hall worthy of that? It's just a pharmacy in a small country like Jinling Kingdom. Are the people of the Qingxia sect going crazy? They actually listen to a small pharmacy? Chapter 1005. Revenge. Shansen couldn't help but raised her eyebrows when he heard this, and said in surprise, Oh, didn't everyone here know? The medicinal pills sold by Qingxia sect are all from Shengda Hall. In addition, did you wrong me Qingxia sect and Shengda Hall? The order issued is that you are not allowed to buy medicinal pills supplied by Qingxia sect and Shengda Hall. We didn't restrict you for buying ordinary medicinal pills. As he said, he smiled gently and nodded toward Li Jinyu. He said with a leisurely expression, By the way, elderly, since you are here, there is no need for me to find you again. Elderly, please tell your great elder that the Meridian's cleansing pill and the best spirit healing pill pre-ordered for next month by the Li family can only be cancelled due to the news announced this time. Afterward, he glanced at Ren Shuling with a gentle smile. Oh, it turns out that Miss Ren is here too. That's great. Please go back and tell your father that the bone muscle enhancement pill he ordered, we Qingxia sect also won't be unable to provide. Of course, we will double the deposit you paid. Shen-sen's remarks were gentle and polite, but they sounded like thunder in the ears of everyone present. All the people present were instigated by Li Jinyu, and they more or less participated in the action to frame Hushi. Under Nangong Yu's instructions, Bai Hu found out the identities and origins of these people almost immediately. Then he gave the list to Gu Lufeng. When these people just received the news that Shengda Hall blacklisted their family, they even laughed like Lu Yin. Just a mere Shengda Hall. They really think they are something? Haha, they actually want to blacklist us? What a joke. But soon, they couldn't laugh anymore. Because after the news was announced, they and their families, no matter which pharmacies they went to, were told that they could only buy ordinary medicinal pills on the market. They couldn't buy a single, one of the best quality medicinal pills provided by Qingxia sect. Even some families, who had been waiting for half a month and finally got the chance to pre-order, were rejected by the pharmacy with just one sentence. At this time, they panicked. So after learning about the relationship between Shengda Hall and Shiyu, they followed Ren Shuling and Li Jinyu early in the morning to question them. Ren Shuling's expression was even more distorted at this time. She was so angry that her entire body trembled. The bone muscle enhancement pill ordered by her father was originally intended for her and his younger brother. Originally, Qingxia sect was willing to let them pre-order earlier because she was the daughter of the Doctors Association's president. Her father had been praising her after he knew that the bone muscle enhancement pill would arrive. His brother was also full of expectations. Chapter 1006. Don't be so ruthless. Although everyone knew that the best quality pill came from Shengda Hall, few people really knew the relationship between Qingxia sect and Shengda Hall. But now they knew very clearly. Everyone knew that Shengda Hall was Shiyu's private property. All the medicinal pills belonged to him. He could of course decide who should the medicinal pills sell to. Everyone in Lanxiang courtyard looked at each other with unsightly and panicky faces. At this moment, Hushi was holding a chess piece in her hand, turning it lightly. She glanced over Gu Lufeng, Bai Hu, and finally Nangongyu. Nangongyu's eyes were gentle. He was holding a black chess piece, and he placed it gently with a leisurely and contented expression. Hushi was about to put down the white chess piece in her hand. Then she suddenly heard Lu Jishi saying, "Mr. Shi, although you are the young master of Shengda Hall, you use your authority to offend so many families for your own private gain. Isn't this behavior too rash? Don't forget, these medicinal pills are not made by you. Have you consulted your master?" Hushi smiled slightly and put down the white chess piece. Then she stood up and smiled with her hands behind her back. "Of course, my master will have no objection. If Fairy Jishi doesn't believe it, you can go to him and ask." After that, she stopped looking at Lu Jishi, but she smiled slyly at Nangongyu. "It's too noisy here. The yard is full of annoying people. Let's forget about this game. We will play again next time." After she finished speaking, she waved her sleeves, turned around and left. As soon as Hushi left, the corners of Nangongyu's mouth slowly curled up. He also left the place. However, Bai Hu, Qing Luan and others held their fists to refrain themselves from laughing out. They all entered the room together. "Princess, you are so bad. What master? Is no master at all. All medicinal pills are refined by Shiyu alone." Princess actually asked Fairy Jishi to ask her master. Who should Fairy Jishi ask? For a while, the people in the Lanxiang courtyard walked away completely. Only those who looked furious, unwilling and helpless were left here. A hint of fear and panic surged in everyone's mind, especially those who were instigated by Li Jinyu to turn against Shiyu. They glared furiously at Li Jinyu, and they were full of regret. If they knew this would happen, they wouldn't be tempted by Li Jinyu's little prophet to go against Shiyu. Gu Liufeng's move was so ruthless. What a collective punishment. If it was just themselves being retaliated against, then it's not a big problem. If the family was implicated, would they have a good life in the future? Now, they wanted to kowtow to beg for mercy, but would the other party still give them this opportunity? Seeing that Hushi and others had left, Shun San shook her head with a smile, cupped her fist toward everyone in the courtyard, and prepared to leave. However, Lu Jishi took a step forward and blocked Shun Sen's path. "Elder Shin, don't be so ruthless. Qingxia sect has always been righteous and chivalrous. Can't Elder Shin forgive everyone here?" Shin-san stopped and said with a gentle expression, "Fairy Jishi, as I said just now, all the medicinal pills of Qingxia sect are provided by Shengda Hall. Since Shengda Hall is unwilling to sell to these families, I can only act accordingly. Please forgive me, Fairy Jishi." Chapter 1007. Coercion and Bribery. Lu Jishi's eyes flashed and slowly said, "Elder Shin, can Qingxia sect only work with Shengda Hall?" Shin-san was taken aback, staring at Lu Jishi with scorching eyes. "What does Fairy Jishi mean?" Lu Jishi showed a deep smile on her face. Jishi knows that Qingxia sect has not been easy to buy medicinal pills in the past few years, so it has cooperated with Shengda Hall. But what if the Doctors Association is willing to cooperate with Qingxia sect? "Elder Shun, are you willing to consider changing partners?" Shin-sen frowned slightly. He was about to shook his head to refuse. Lu Jishi said in a low voice, "Elder Shun, please consider carefully before answering. It is said that the medicinal pills that Shengda Hall can provide so far are only the 4th grade. Is Elder Shin sure that you don't need the help of the Doctors Association in the future?" After speaking, she paused before continuing. "I'm not asking Elder Shin and Shengda Hall to stop cooperating. but I hope Elder Shin can persuade Shengda Hall to cancel this decision so that everyone present can continue to buy medicinal pills freely. If Elder Shin agrees, then the Doctors Association and Qingxia Sect are allies. Otherwise, if Qingxia Sect asks the Doctors Association in the future for help, Jishi will not know what will happen. This was the first time that Lu Jishi really threatened a person. Because of her inexperience, her voice even trembled slightly, and her mood was very unhappy. It seemed that all the bad things in her life appeared here for the first time, and it was all because of one person, Shiyu. As soon as Lu Jishi said this, all the people looked hopeful. Compared with Shengda Hall and Qingxia Sect, even a fool knew that Qingxia Sect had more say. Maybe Shengda Hall was one of Qingxia Sect's industries. Although Shin San kept saying that Qingxia Sect listened to Shengda Hall, none of them would believe it. Shi was just a kid who was at the foundation establishment stage. Shun San was a master of the nascent soul stage. As long as Shun San was willing, he must be able to convince Shiyu. However, Shun San chuckled lightly without hesitation, sarcastically saying, "Fairy Jishi is so funny. Even without Shengda Hall, Qingxia Sect can't get those high-grade medicinal pills, right? Am I too old that I lose my memory? How many high-grade medicinal pills did the Doctors Association provide us Qingxia Sect each year?" The supply of medicinal pills from the Feng family to Qingxia Sect had been stuck for a long time. It was already good for them to have 10 pills, so what was the difference between offending and not offending? Not to mention, now with the support of the Shengda Hall, the disciple of the Qingxia Sect were high-spirited and refreshed. They didn't have to be threatened by the Doctors Association anymore. Lu Jishi suddenly squinted her eyes, approached Shansen, and said in a voice that almost only two of them could hear, "Then if I say, as long as Qingxia Sect is willing, our Doctors Association will provide all the medicinal pills of the Feng family's portion to the Shin family?" Shun Sen's eyes widened suddenly. His face was full of disbelief. Lu Jishi saw Shun Sen's expression, and she smiled with satisfaction. She didn't believe that Shun San could resist such a huge temptation. In fact, what she said to Shun San today was not just for the sake of fighting with Shiyu. Since the successive incidents happened in the Feng family, the status of the Feng family in the Miluo continent had plummeted again and again. When Luli sect was destroyed, the Feng family almost had no power. Chapter 1008. Can't Tell Good from Bad. Before Lu Jishi left home, she had heard her father and the elders in the association discuss that they wanted to resupport a sect as the representative of the Doctors Association. If Feng family really disappointed them, they could use it to replace the Feng family. In Lu Jishi's view, Qingxia sect's comprehensive strength even surpassed Feng family, and Qingxia sect could almost be regarded as the Shin family. If the Shin family could be supported as a puppet of the Doctors Association, it would obviously be more suitable than the current Feng family. However, to Lu Jishi's expectation, Shan San was just surprised for a moment before saying with a faint smile, "Thank you Fairy Jishi for your kindness, but we have a good cooperation with Shengda Hall now, so I don't want to consider changing partner yet. If Fairy Jishi has nothing else for me, then I'll leave first." After finishing speaking, he didn't even look at Lu Jishi's reaction and didn't wait for Lu Jishi to say anything. He just turned around and left. Lu Jishi stood there with a stunned expression, looking at the back of Shan Sen's resolute figure. She couldn't recover her senses for a long time. Rejected? Shan Sen rejected? The conditions I offered is dreamed of by many families, but this man actually rejected. An unspeakable anger surged in Lu Jishi's heart. This anger even made her unwilling, and hated even more than her being ashamed by Shiyu in public. When is the dignified Doctors Association, in the eyes of others, inferior to Shengda Hall and Shiyu? Ren Shuling, who listened to their conversation, stomped her feet fiercely and cursed loudly. "What Qingxia sect's elder? I think he has a problem with his brain. He didn't even put our Doctors Association in his eyes. Really can't tell good from bad. Senior sister, there will always be times when they regret it." Lu Jishi's eyes were dark, and the hands hanging beside her were clenched into fists. "That's right, I will definitely make all these people regret it." Lu Jishi and Ren Shuling were full of anger, thinking about how to make Qingxia sect and Shiyu regret in the future. However, The people in the yard looked at each other in panic when they saw the result. Not long ago, Qingxia sect was also short of medicinal pills due to Feng family, and the cultivation among their disciples wasn't smooth. Many of the unsettled outer disciples even switched to other factions such as the Yunlan sect. However, they suddenly had a large amount of top and upper-grade medicinal pills. Not only was there ample supply in the sect, but there was even a margin for public sale. Those disciplines that left the Qingxia sect were really regretful, because now Qingxia sect not only inner disciples, but outer disciples would also get a certain amount of best quality pill every year. That was the best quality pill. It couldn't be bought even with money in the market out there. The large number of medicinal pills that Qingxia sect suddenly took out caused many discussions throughout Tiangang Kingdom. At the beginning, everyone guessed that a pill refining master suddenly appeared in Qingxia sect, but how could a pill refining master refine such a huge amount of medicinal pills? This was where most people were puzzled. Today, this mystery had finally been solved. It turned out that the medicinal pills of Qingxia sect were all provided by Shengde Hall. The little Shengde Hall could provide such a huge amount of best quality pills. What kind of power was behind them? Although the best quality pill was ridiculously high in price, the effect was amazing. Chapter 1009, Regret. Especially for people with average talents, taking some of the best quality pills could break through the bottleneck and give them the hope of advancing again. How can such horrible and powerful medicinal pills not make everyone yearn for and scramble to buy? It was okay if they hadn't tasted it before, but now that they had tasted the benefits, they suddenly say that they were not available. Wasn't this killing them? Thinking of this, the eyes of these people looking at Lu Zhishi and others with grievances. Of course, they hated Li Jinyu more, but no one knew now that Li Jinyu did all this for Lu Zhishi. Wasn't their predicaments caused by Lu Zhishi indirectly? Lu Zhishi's face turned green and white. I have always been the favored one since I was a child. I have always accepted praise from the others. The others only have envy and admiration in their eyes when seeing me. When did I see such treatment? All this is because of Shi Yu. Lu Zhishi took a deep breath, and she put up a gentle and moving smile before apologized slightly. You can blame Zhishi for indirectly causing this to happen to you. I really feel sorry. I didn't expect that Mr. Shi and Elder Shin would be so ruthless. But she paused. The apology on her face turned into self-confidence and comfort. However, don't worry. You are hated by Mr. Shi more or less because of me. To apologize, as long as you buy medicinal pills from the pharmacies under the Doctors Association, you will have an 80% discount. Ren Shuling nodded vigorously and said, Yeah, why should you be threatened by that bitch? Huh, who wants his medicinal pills? Is there still a shortage of medicinal pills in our Doctors Association? The people present looked at each other, but no one felt happy. They were still dejected. Even Ren Shuling and Li Jinyu looked unsightly when they would be blamed by their families for not getting those best quality medicinal pills. Although there were many medicinal pills from the Doctors Association, how could those best quality pills be good? They heard that the Doctors Association bought a lot of this best quality pill and went back to study, but so far there was still no result. This result was expected. If the Doctors Association was capable of refining such magical medicinal pills, they wouldn't wait until now. Haze. They once again deeply regretted that they offended Shiyu for Fairy Jishi. Early the next morning, Zhuge Feng sent Divine Soul Jade gratefully. Hushi was very happy to get Divine Soul Jade. This was the purpose of their trip. With this Divine Soul Jade, she could restore Shaoqi's sanity a little bit. But Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng were happier than Hushi. Because they got Divine Soul Jade, it meant that they won the bet that involved the entire people of Yangon City. What they were about to earn would be the wealth of the entire Yangon City. Thinking about the dejected faces of those smug people who bet on Fairy Jishi before, Bai Hu felt very delighted. The two walked leisurely all the way in the direction of Chenglefeng. When passing a pharmacy, an angry male voice came from inside. Why don't you let me buy the best quality pill? I ordered the bone muscle enhancement pill months ago. It's finally my turn to buy it. He left bitterly with a red face. I must go back and check. To check clearly which little bastard caused me to not be able to buy medicinal pills and to be ashamed in public. After watching the excitement, Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng continued to walk to Changle Gambling House. On the way, Bai Hu couldn't help smiling next to Gu Lufeng and said, Brother Gu, your trick is really dirty. Haha, I didn't expect that, Brother Gu. You look gentle on the surface, but your heart is so black. Chapter 10-11, Debt Note. Gu Lufeng looked at him coldly for a moment, then he smiled. Oh, don't worry, I will remember to convey these compliments to Nangong Yu. What? What does it have to do with Master? Bai Hu was taken aback for a moment, then he exclaimed, No way? Did the Master come up with these ideas? Gu Liufeng's eyes flashed slightly, and he chuckled. The rules were indeed made by Qingxia sect and I, but thanks to your family master's reminder that I can think of such a vicious plan. Even this list was already given to me by him. You tell me, who is the one who really has a black heart? Bai Hu took a breath. His face turned pale. My master is really, it's too hard to describe. He usually hates those dirty tricks. Now, in order to stand up for the princess, he even came up with such ideas. TSK, I must be more respectful to the princess in the future. Otherwise, I might be hated by Master and be punished severely. The two talked and laughed for a while, and they soon came to the Changle Gambling House. When Gu Lufeng and Bai Hu took out the proof of the bet, all the eyes of the entire Changle Gambling House focused on them. Everyone's eyes were full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. However, Gu Lufeng and Bai Hu's strength was self-evident, plus the sanctions imposed on several families by Shengda Hall, which had been rumored on the streets of Yangon City in the past few days. Among them, even the most domineeringly family and Ren family in Yangon City were blacklisted by Shengda Hall. Now their families were in serious trouble. Many martial artists who originally worked for the Li family and Ren family resigned after hearing the news. Otherwise, this implication of the blacklist even banned them from buying. Therefore, whether it was the Changle Gambling House or the people in Yangon City who participated in the bet, although they had lost all their crystal stones to Bai Hu and they hate him, no one dared to say anything. When Bai Hu counted the crystal stone he won, he was so happy that his mouth couldn't even close. Gosh, even the storage ring and storage bag for shipping crystal stones are folded like a hill. Haze, Gu Lufeng and I have to transport these storage rings back by bare hands. These are 2 whole sacks of storage devices. Wouldn't we be exhausted to carry them back? Except for artifacts like Hushi's Void, other storage devices in Miluo continent couldn't be stored in stacks. In other words, storage rings cannot be placed in storage rings or storage bags that also have the Void attribute. Most of the storage devices on the Miluo continent didn't have much space inside, and the crystal stone covered a very large area, so in the end, they were packed with 2 large sack bags of storage rings and storage bags. Bai Hu laughed and couldn't help complaining to Gu Lufeng unscrupulously. The onlookers really wanted to beat this guy who got so many crystal stones, but he still complained. However, when Bai Hu saw a piece of paper, he couldn't help but raised his eyebrows. What is this? The guy at the casino looked a little ugly. He whispered, This is the debt note written by Senior Li. Debt note? Bai Hu squinted and smiled. When is it possible to use debt note for betting at the gambling house? And you actually took pay me with a debt note? Chapter 10-12. All crystal stones. The staff staggered with fright, took a few steps back, and said bitterly, Senior, please don't be angry. But I'm helpless too. Your bet is too high. We have already paid you all the bets. But Senior Li also placed a very high bet. No, it is very high. Without his debt note, our gambling house will go bankrupt. We really have no way. Bai Hu sneered and said, You have no way, then you want us to keep a blank paper. Before Bai Hu's words were finished, Gu Lufeng suddenly took the piece of paper from his hand. After taking a look, a deep smile appeared on his mouth. Just let it be. Bai Hu, let's go. And? What do you mean? We don't want all these crystal stones? This amount of crystal stones is very large. Who said we don't want it? Gu Lufeng turned around with his eyes flickering. The pair of eyes was indescribably charming. Didn't you see the stamp of the Li family? We will of course look for the one who owes us crystal stones. What's the point of troubling a small gambling house? Don't you think so? Baihu was taken aback for a moment, then his eyes lit up with an incredibly carefree and sinister smile on his face. The two carried the bags containing the storage devices, then they hurried to the city lord's mansion without stopping. In the Lanxiang courtyard, Hushi and Nangong Yu were playing chess. Hushi frowned tightly, and the white chess piece in her hand wasn't placed for a long time. Nangong Yu, however, had a leisurely look, drinking tea while watching and admiring Hushi's frowning look. Little Egg, Little Golden Dragon, Little Dumb Cow, and Shaoli were playing in the open space. Purple Abyss Vine was spinning in the air. Emo Xiaotu and Shan Qingchua surrounded Xiao Qi and taught him to speak and some simple movements. Suddenly, the door was pushed open. Baihu and Gu Lufeng carried 2 sacks, stunning everyone in the house. Emo Xiaotu couldn't help but stupidly said, Baihu, Lufeng, did you use the crystal stones you want to buy spiritual rice? Why did you buy so many? Is she going to cook a big meal today? Baihu and Gu Lufeng looked curiously at the crowd in the room, and they couldn't help but laugh. Baihu said, 2 sacks of spiritual rice? Little rabbit, stop you kidding, okay? Even if you gather all the spiritual rice of the entire Miluo continent, they don't even worth the 2 sacks in our hands. With that said, in the amazed eyes of everyone, Baihu dropped the sack and poured out all the things inside. Gu Lufeng also did the same. For a while in the room, there were endless clanging sounds. The people in the room were stunned by the scene. Even Qing Long, who had always been calm, couldn't help but widen his eyes and exclaim, Are these all crystal stones? Hee. Are you scared? Baihu smiled triumphantly. This is all the best that Princess won for us. TSK. When I first saw it, even my eyes almost fell out of fright. Little Egg rushed to the mountain with his short legs, pulled out a storage ring, and probed inside. Chapter 10:13. Clear the accounts soon. The crystal stone mountain hundreds of times, larger than the pile of storage rings, appeared in front of everyone. The shiny crystal stones exuded a strong spirit. With so many crystal stones piling up in the room, one could feel the spiritual power without using divine sense. The feeling was comfortable. Wow, there are so many crystal stones. Little Egg couldn't help but exclaim. He happily threw himself on the pile of crystal stones. Then he picked up a second-grade crystal stone and gnawed at it. Seeing this, the other little guys followed suit and happily rushed to the pile of crystal stones and rolled in it. Little Golden Dragon even took out a pile of crystal stone mountain from the storage device pile. Then he competed with Little Egg to eat the crystal stones faster. The little guys were divided into 2 teams at once. Little Egg teamed with Little Dumb Cow, Little Golden Dragon teamed with Purple Abyss Vine, and Shaoli was the judge. All of a sudden, there were sounds of gnawing the crystal stones and the happy laughter of the little ones. Baihu's mouth twitched. Although I that master and princess always squander. Although I also know that we won a lot of crystal stones this time. But no matter how many crystal stones, they shouldn't be squandered like this. Looking at the speed at which a few little guys gnawed the crystal stones and Princess' calm expression, they obviously gnawed a lot of her crystal stones. Alas, if I knew this, I would bet more. I should just mortgage several properties of the King of Hell Mansion in the Tiangang Kingdom first. Gu Lufeng was extremely calm. With Shiyu's ability to refine medicinal pills, the amount of crystal stones she earns every day is beyond measure. So what if she wants to raise this group of foodies? My master has the ability and financial resources to support them. Who can say anything? However, he still counted the crystal stones bet by Nangong Yu, Qing Long, Baihu and Qing Luan at the first time. Then he handed over the shares of the King of Hell Mansion to Nangong Yu and others. After all, even brothers had to keep the accounts clear. Although Shiyu was likely to marry Nangong Yu, she must be on par with Nangong Yu in terms of money and strength. let alone letting she be looked down upon by King of Hell Mansion. Possible. Among all the crystal stones won, Nangong Yu's share was definitely the most. Qing Long took 2 armfuls of crystal stones from Gu Liufeng's hands before finally accepting Nangong Yu's winning bet. Compared to when Nangong Yu took out the row of storage rings to bet, Qing Long's expression was all astounded all the time. It is great that Master can marry Princess. No, he hasn't married yet, and the Princess has already earned so much for Master. Such a huge amount of crystal stones, the industry under King of Hell Mansion may not be able to earn them in 1 year. If he marries her back, how strong the King of Hell Mansion would be. Nangong Yu was not polite. He smiled and took out the crystal stones from the storage rings and put them in his storage device. Nangong Yu's storage device was a decorative object similar to a rivet, but it was completely different from the ordinary storage device. This storage rivet was called Black House. It looked unremarkable on the outside, but it could hold more than the items of a city inside. Even if he put a mansion inside, it would only occupy a fraction of the space. Chapter 10:14. Ask for support equals, of course, no matter how magical Black House was, it was nothing more than a storage device. It was not the same as Hushi's void. It couldn't be planted, nor could it be put in living things. It could only store things. At this time, the little guys had eaten the crystal stone, each holding a bulging belly, laying on the ground and shouting, "So full, so full." Little Egg looked up and saw that most of the storage rings were missing on the ground. Then he looked at the hills in front of Nangong Yu. He couldn't help but say, "Daddy, you are so rich, even more money than Mom." As he said, he smiled and threw himself in front of Nangong Yu, holding his feet, blinking his big eyes and saying, "Daddy, please support." Nangong Yu smiled and flicked the storage rings on the table lightly. Soon, a dozen storage rings appeared in front of Little Egg. Nangong Yu chuckled and said, "The support fee. Remember to pack together with your mom and send it over." Little Egg was overjoyed when he saw the dozen or so storage rings. He didn't hear what Nangong Yu said. After cheering, he threw the storage rings into the void. Then the calls of Daddy were even more affectionate. Hushi was speechless for a while. This little thing with no conscience, he is tempted by the enemy so easily. Why do I need this spiritual pet for? Bai Hu saw the dozen or so storage rings taken away by the little pink pig, and he felt so disheartening again. He wasn't reluctant to give them to Princess, but giving to these little guys was the same as being eaten away. This was such a waste. Suddenly, Bai Hu's eyes flashed, and he took out a debt note from his arms, and the pain on his face instantly turned into a sinister smile. "Hey, what does it matter if there are less than a dozen storage rings? There are still a lot of crystal stones in the Li family waiting for us to collect." Thinking of this, Bai Hu immediately waved to Little Golden Dragon, Little Egg and Shaoli. Then he took out the debt note and shook it in front of the little guys, whispering, "Little Egg, Little Golden Dragon, do you want more crystal stones?" Little Egg looked at the words written on it with shiny eyes. Little Golden Dragon sneered and said, "That's great. I was just worried that I haven't done enough for Boss last time. This time, we will take them back with interest." Gu Lufeng also smiled gently and said, "I don't know if the crystal stones of the Li family is enough to repay the debt note, but I heard that their family has a lot of precious magic weapons and medicinal pills accumulated over the years. I believe it will be enough to repay the debt." The few people and spiritual pets smiled at each other with their eyes flashing dim light. Hushi looked at these guys whispering and smiling secretly, and she couldn't help shaking her head. In a blink of an eye, she saw Shao-Chi standing by her side with a confused face, watching them discussing. His eyes were full of curiosity and slight envy. She sighed lightly, touched Shao-Chi's soft hair, and said softly, "Don't worry, Shao-Chi, one day, you can live like them, think and cultivate like a normal person. Sister assures you." Shao-Chi heard Hushi's voice, felt her gentle touch, and didn't notice what she said. He no longer bothered the people in the room. He hugged Hushi's arm, rubbed her shoulder and said, "Sister, sister, I like sister the most." Hushi's heart was soft. As she was about to say something more, Xiao Qi's collar was suddenly pulled up. Chapter 10:15. Not brother-in-law, yet the clear purple eyes met the cold starry eyes of Nangong Yu. Nangong Yu sneered, I remember that I warned you. If you dare to throw yourself into sheer again. Before Nangong Yu had finished speaking, Xiao Qi, who had always been quiet when facing Nangong Yu, suddenly said, No, you are not, brother-in-law. Nangong Yu's movements paused. He squinted slightly, and a dangerous aura exuded from him. Xiao Qi continued to say without fear of death, You're not, brother-in-law, not married. You can't control me, puff. Hushi sprayed a sip of tea on the chessboard, took the silk kerchief from Qing Luan and laughed as she wiped it off. Qing Luan was also holding back her laugh, and she quickly cleaned up the wet chessboard. Nangong Yu's face was gloomy like water was going to drip out, but he still put down Xiao Qi in the end. Once Xiao Qi was free, he immediately ran back to Hushi and made a grimace at him with purple eyes shining brightly. The smile in Hushi's mind was suddenly replaced by a feeling of touch. After getting Divine Soul Jade, Xiao Qi had just absorbed the essence of Divine Soul Jade. Maybe it was obvious as he just absorbed it, but now she had seen that Xiao Qi had become smarter and more like a normal person. Her only brother in the past and this life. Her brother who had suffered for her. She could finally do something for him. Xiao Qi felt Hushi's gentle gaze, and a bright smile appeared on his face. He crawled down, resting his head on Hushi's lap and whispering, Sister. I like sister the most. Hushi bowed her head and kissed the tip of his hair, and she said with a hoarse voice, Xiao Qi, sister also likes you. So, you must get better, understand? You're the only relative of sister in this world. Qing Long couldn't help but glance at his master's face. Although his face was ugly, Nangong Yu didn't do anything else or say anything this time. However, his gaze looking at the Hushi was hot and affectionate, as if it would burn at any time. Nangong Yu, the only relative, huh? Then I will be Shir's only lover. The mansion of the Li family was located in the south of Yangon City. It had a strong spirit and a wide view. It was not far from the central street. It could be said to be the prime location in the entire Yangon City. At this time, it was just afternoon. The sun was still scorching the earth. The guards at the entrance of the Li mansion were a little dispirited. In the past few days, the Li family was chaotic because of not being able to buy the best quality pill. Coupled with Li Jinyu's embarrassing speech and actions in front of the entire Yangon City people, it put shame on the entire Li family. Regarding this matter, the Li family held more than a dozen meetings. Each time the topic was whether to expel Li Jinyu from the Li family in order to calm the anger of Shengde Hall and Shi Yu. However, in the end, it was still suppressed by Li Zongming, the current patriarch of the Li family and Li Jinyu's father. Moreover, Li Jinyu had the cultivation base of Gold Core stage at a young age, and he was also the elder of the Yunlan sect. Although he had been dismissed by the Yunlan sect, his identity and strength couldn't be underestimated. So now, the Li family was divided into two factions. One faction agreed to expel Li Jinyu from the Li family in exchange for the right of purchasing the best quality pill for the other children of the Li family. The other faction thought that they should take the opportunity to let Li Jinyu be the family master to let him please the Doctors Association, so that the Li family could form a connection with the Doctors Association. Chapter 10:16. Debt repayment. It wasn't until midnight last night that the elders of Li family finally made a decision. They decided to give up the best quality pill and instead please the Doctors Association. After all, the Doctors Association was so powerful. If they bootlicked the Doctors Association, the benefits they could get were by no means comparable to just a few best quality pills. But no matter which decision, it is an inevitable fact that Li family's vitality had been severely injured, and its status in Yangon City had plummeted. Therefore, the guards of Li family were somewhat dispirited. At this moment, a man's voice suddenly sounded in the ears of the guards. Where is Li Jinyu? Let him get out and pay the money. The guards were all startled. When they looked up, they saw two young and tall men standing in front of the gate. The guard of Li family was in a bad mood. Now seeing these two came to cause trouble to the Li family, they shouted furiously, "Who are you to cause trouble here? Can our young master's name be simply mentioned by you? Get lost, otherwise don't blame us for being rude." Before he finished speaking, his vision blurred, and he heard a bang. The whole person was thrown out like a cannonball and hit the door panel hard. In the pain of broken bones, the heavy door of the Li mansion was creaking under the huge impact. Then he collapsed to the ground. In midair, Little Dumb Cow, which had drummed into a big ball, returned to his original shape and fell to the ground with a bang. Little Egg immediately leaned forward, touching his ugly little head and complimenting him. "Little Cow, good job. When we return, I will let Mom cook for you." Little Dumb Cow was praised and caressed by Little Egg, and his whole body was shaking with excitement. He was making a silly laugh. But Little Egg had already returned to Little Golden Dragon and the others. The few little guys lined up and shouted loudly, "Pay the debt, Li Jinyu. Get out and pay off the money you owe." At this moment, everyone in the Li family was shocked. The first one who came out was an old man who looked like he was in his early 50s. Seeing Bai Hu and the others walking in, his eyes widened as he shouted angrily, "Who are you? How dare you cause trouble in our Li family?" Bai Hu crossed his arms and sneered, "Where is Li Jinyu? Let the turtle grandson me his grandpa." The old man said angrily, "You should report your name first and make it clear why are you looking for Jinyu. If you dare to walk in bluntly, don't blame me for being rude." Bai Hu said leisurely, "I'm Bai Hu, the guard of Shi Yu. I'm here to collect the debt from Li Jinyu for my young master." Because of the sound just now, a lot of people have gathered outside Li family's door at this time, and they were poking their heads at the door to watch the excitement. Bai Hu was very satisfied with the current situation. He took out the debt note and showed it to the old man. "May I know who you are of the Li family? But no matter what your cultivation is, you should understand words, right? This is the debt note written by Li Jinyu himself to Changle Gambling House. Now he has lost the bet, but Changle Gambling House gave us this piece of waste paper to our young master to repay the debt. If you are our young master, would you accept it?" The old man was startled first, then he glanced at the debt note intently. With just a glance, he took a deep breath. The number of crystal stones written on it almost made him faint. Chapter 1017. Might as well rob while showing it. He smiled and said, "Can you all see clearly? This is written by Li Jinyu himself. The handwriting is his, and there is Li family's seal on it. Everyone here please see it clearly, lest Li family refuse to admit it later and say that our young master is blackmailing them." Most of the people who could live in the vicinity of the Li family were big families in Yangon City. They were not afraid of the Li family and were even willing to watch the Li family make a fool of themselves. So when Bai Hu asked, they immediately laughed and echoed loudly. The old man of the Li family looked pale, and he couldn't speak for a long while. At this moment, a majestic voice came from behind. "Chung'an, what happened?" The old man turned his head and saw the visitor, and he immediately said in surprise, "Patriarch, they are here to make trouble. They claim that Jinyu owes them crystal stones, and we must pay them back." What came out was a middle-aged man who looked younger than the old man, but he seemed to have an extraordinary vibe. His cultivation was obviously extremely high. Many people immediately recognized the identity of this person. He was Li Zongming, the patriarch of the Li family and the father of Li Jinyu. As Li Zongming heard this, he glanced at Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng with a cold gaze and said coldly, "You two break into my Li family and cause trouble. What are your intentions?" Bai Hu dug his ear and said impatiently, "Do you people of the Li family understand human language? Didn't I just say clearly enough? Li Jinyu owed our young master crystal stones, so we are here to collect debts." The old man Li Chingon, who came out earlier, approached Li Zongming and whispered the amount on the debt note and the ins and outs of the matter in his ear. Li Zongming's eyes widened slightly, and his face turned gloomy. He gritted his teeth after a long while. "How do you prove that this debt note was written by Jinyu? It is clear that you are working with the Changle Gambling House to blackmail our Li family. This is simply ridiculous. If you get lost now, I can still let you go. Ha ha ha." Before Li Zongming could finish his words, Bai Hu had already laughed and interrupted him. He turned to the people at the gate. See? I told you earlier that Li family will refuse to admit it. He even said that the Changle gambling house forged this debt note. Changle gambling house was able to forge Li Jinyu's handwriting, and they also forged the seal of your Li family? Immediately, he put away his smile and coldly, whether this debt note is real, can't we make it clear after Patriarch Li let Li Jinyu confront us? Li Zongming was infuriated hearing the ridicule of the crowd. He said bluntly, Jinyu fell from the city wall that day because of you guys. Now, he is recuperating in the Yunlan sect. If you want to find him, wait a few months. Bai Hu was amused by the shamelessness of the Li family. He didn't smile, but he released a faint murderous intent. Then does elderly mean that you don't want to pay the debt? Li Zongming sneered, showing an inexplicable debt note. And you want us Li family to pay such a large number of crystal stones? In your dream, you might as well rob us. Bai Hu sneered and said slowly, elderly is really smart. How do you know that we are going to rob? Chapter 10:18. Whoever got hit knew the pain, but everyone present, including the spiritual pets, wasn't bothered by this. Bai Hu even squinted and smiled. It seems that Li family is really poor. They can't even pay the crystal stones they owe. Little Egg, what if they don't have the money? Wouldn't we lose a lot? Little Egg immediately clutched his little paw and said without hesitation, Isn't that easy? If they don't have money, just pay the debt with items. Comrades, let's go. Let's take all the treasure in this house. All of them. With that said, without waiting for everyone's reaction, his little pink body had already rushed forward like a cannonball. Bai Hu wanted to ask what comrades meant, but Little Egg had already run far away. Because Little Egg rushed out, Little Golden Dragon, Purple Abyss Vine, and Imo Xiaotu rushed out immediately without hesitation. Only the best-behaved Xiao Li and the unresponsive Little Dumb Cow remained in place. Li Zongming's face was distorted by their arrogant faces, but he didn't feel much fear for them in his heart. Although the two in front of him were both at the gold core stage, the Li family had 5 gold core stage cultivators. Even if Li Jinyu was currently recovering from injuries, there were still 4 at the gold core stage later stage. As for the remaining few spiritual pets and women who didn't seem threatening, they wouldn't take them seriously. They want to cause trouble in my Li family with just these few guys? They are simply ignorant. Li Zongming jumped up. A long sword appeared in his hand as he rushed toward Gu Lufeng. He had already seen that Gu Lufeng had the highest cultivation among them, almost comparable to him. As long as he killed Gu Lufeng first, the remaining people were simply not his opponent at all. Gu Lufeng stood on the spot leisurely. He smirked slightly. The peach blossom eyes under the mask were gleaming as if they were shining with a different kind of light. Just when Li Zongming's sword was about to pierce Gu Liufeng's heart, suddenly there was a bang from the tip of the sword. The flying sword seemed to have hit an iron stone, and it bent and broke abruptly. Before Li Zongming realized what had happened, a huge shadow already appeared in front of him. Little Dumb Cow's body had grown for 100 times. Then he used the most primitive attack, Headbutt, on Li Zongming's head. Bang! With a loud noise, Li Zongming only felt dizzy. The spiritual power shield that he cast shook for a while. Under the intense pain in his internal organs, he spouted a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. But how could Little Dumb Cow let him go so easily? The huge body bounced on the ground like a ball. It rushed into the air, then it landed quickly, pressing on Li Zongming again. Li Zongming seemed to hear the sound of his bones breaking, and he spouted a mouthful of blood. Finally, he couldn't take it and fainted. At this moment, everyone in the Li family was in a mess. They didn't pay attention to Imo Xiaotu and the spiritual pets at all. They just wanted to focus on dealing with Gu Lufeng and Bai Hu. But when they really fought, they found out that they were wrong. Throughout the battle, Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng both stood leisurely and watched the show. It was the group of little guys who actually fought. Little Dumb Cow knocked out Li Zongming, who was at the gold core stage later stage. Imo Xiaotu's fist. Whoever got hit knew the pain. Chapter 1019. Turned upside down, the most ruthless was actually Xiao Li, who had the cutest look. This was Xiao Li's first real battle after coming out of the secret realm. She tried to prove that she had other strengths in addition to using illusion. When those guards of the Meridian stage and Foundation establishment stage just got close to her, they were blown back instantly and fainted right away. In just a short time, the entire Li family was actually turned upside down. Even the remaining 2 gold core stage elders were defeated by Little Golden Dragon and Little Purple. They tied them together and threw them on the ground. Little Egg and the other little ones rushed into the Li family happily, searching every inch of the Li family's corners and keeping all the valuables into the storage ring. Little Purple searched everyone in Li family and confiscated all of their storage rings. Li Zoming had already woken up at this time, seeing such a mess in his eyes. All the Li family's disciples had been stripped. He really wanted to faint again. "Father, what happened?" Li Jinyu's voice came from outside the door. Seeing such a mess in the Li family, he couldn't help exclaiming. Bai Hu, who was counting the treasures that Little Purple looted, heard Li Jinyu's voice and raised his head. He said with a half-smile, "Oh, elderly? I thought you had run to the Yunlan sect to avoid the debt." Li Jinyu saw Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng and quickly recognized their identities. Thinking of the humiliation and embarrassment Shiyu had caused him on the city wall, new hatred and old hatred suddenly surged up together. "Bai Hu, Gu Lufeng, why are you doing this? You guys won the medical skill match and earned the fame and fortune, but now you even come to trouble my Li family? Don't you think this is too much?" "Too much?" Bai Hu sneered as he took out the debt note and shook it. "We are just here to collect what we deserve. How is it too much?" Li Jinyu's face changed drastically when he saw the debt note in Bai Hu's hand. At first, he knew that Nangongyu had bet a lot of crystal stones on Shiyu. He thought they were trying to help Shiyu gain momentum, and he was full of disdain for their behavior. In addition, Lu Jishi intentionally talked about this in front of him with a sad face. Li Jinyu wanted to please Jishi, so he wrote a debt note to increase Lu Jishi's win rate again. In addition to helping Lu Jishi build momentum and allowing rumors about Shiyu to spread better, it was also because Li Jinyu believed that Lu Jishi would definitely win. He was badly injured on the city wall and lost all his face, so he had forgotten the existence of this debt note. Now seeing the debt note in Bai Hu's hand, he immediately looked shocked. The number of crystal stones was simply a sky-high price. If he really wanted to pay it back, he probably needed to dismantle the entire Li family and exchange it for money. However, if Li family was dismantled and lost all funds, what was left of Li Jinyu? Thinking of this, Li Jinyu immediately gritted his teeth and said, "I don't know anything about this debt note." "You don't know?" Bai Hu sneered. It doesn't matter to us whether young Master Li knows it or not. We just want to confirm that the seal belongs to the Li family. Since young Master Li wants to renege, we will just take all the things in the Li family to pay the debt." Chapter 1020. What's left? You dare. Li Jinyu's face turned pale in horror. Then he looked at the mess in his home and his father's dying look. His body trembled suddenly. At this moment, Little Egg and Imo Xiaotu had searched everything and ran out happily. Imo Xiaotu said, "Bai Hu, their marble is made of green jade. I heard from my grandfather that green jade can be used to make inscribed jade slip, which is of good value. So I dug out their floors and took them away." Bai Hu immediately smiled and praised, "Little Rabbit is really smart. Well done. When we return, I will let young master cook you a good meal." Imo Xiaotu immediately smiled delightedly. Little Egg held his face with his paw and smiled. "They have planted a lot of precious spiritual grass in their backyard. I have pulled out all the spiritual grass. I believe Mom will like it." Xiaoli also got together with Little Egg and said in a gentle voice, "I also helped Ani Little Purple to collect storage rings. I haven't missed any of them. Ani Little Purple, right?" The purple vine shook immediately, and she affectionately touched Xiao Li's little face. Li Jinyu, who listened to their conversation, felt dizzy and barely fainted on the ground. Storage rings, spiritual grass, and even the green jade bricks, these people have taken them all. What is left in the Li family? What is left for me, Li Jinyu? Asshole, I will fight to the death with you. Li Jinyu screamed. He even forgot to take out his spiritual weapon, and he rushed toward Baihu frantically. Baihu didn't even move, but the purple vine rose up into the sky and whipped at Li Jinyu's chest. Li Jinyu's ribs that healed just now made a crackling sound, and he flew out directly and collapsed to the ground. Baihu laughed and waved his hand. Since we have collected the debt, let's go back. The little ones responded in unison, each with their heads up and their chests tall. They seemed indescribable domineering. Gu Lufeng slowly followed behind a few people and shook his head with a smile, but after walking a few steps, he suddenly turned around and looked at Li Zongming. Li Zongming was sinisterly looking at Little Golden Dragon, Little Dumb Cow, and the others. Gu Lufeng's eyes dimmed. He frowned slightly, then he revealed a hint of sneer before catching up with Baihu and the others. In Tiangang Kingdom's Yangon City, the medical skills match between Hushi and Fairy Jishi was known to everyone. But in the remote Jinling Kingdom's Yinjing City, many people didn't know anything about this. At this time, Feng Yunjing was also entering Yinjing City. It was just that compared to when they came, they all disguised themselves. On the streets of Yinjing City, 3 soldiers lined up patrolling from time to time. These soldiers were wearing black armor with distinctive signs. Feng Yunjing recognized them as the Iron Kirin soldiers of King of Hell at a glance, and they were called Iron Kirin, the first elite army of the Miluo continent. A middle-aged man next to Feng Yunjing gently stroked his long beard and said in a deep voice, "It seems that the news is right. The King of Hell Mansion has now completely controlled the entire Yinjing City. Even the Imperial Guard who is in charge of protecting Yinjing City has also been replaced by Iron Kirin." Seeing Feng Yunjing's action, the woman immediately rushed over, hugged his leg and whispered, "Young Master Feng, save me, please save me and my master." Feng Yunjing frowned. He of course knew who Zhu Ke was. She was one of the 4 trusted subordinates of Nangong Yu. But his status was honorable. How could he remember the look of Nangong Yu's subordinate? However, the middle-aged man next to Feng Yunjing was surprised when he heard the woman's words. He bowed his head and lifted the woman's face, waving her hair to take a look. With just this wave, the middle-aged man almost vomited. He quickly threw his hand away with disgust. It turned out that the woman's face was covered with large black spots. Her skin was wrinkled and dry like tree bark like an old woman. There was also a scary scar on her face that was slightly wriggling like a centipede. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.